Hey everyone, welcome to this trigonometry mega revision video. In this video we'll go through all the key theory you need to know regarding trigonometry. Sine graphs, cosine graphs, tangent graphs, the sine rule, the cosine rule and the area of a triangle formula. By the end you'll have the full toolkit ready for any exam question. Let's first take a look at the sine graph. The sine graph is a smooth wave that repeats every 360 degrees. The key points to note is that at sine 0 is 0, sine 90 is 1, sine 180 is 0, sine 270 is -1, and sine 360 is 0. And you can see these points on the map, on the graph, as follows. It's also really important to note that the sine graph repeats every 360 degrees. So if a question asks you to work out what sine 450 is, for example, you can work that out by saying, okay, 450 is 360 plus 90, and take a look at the value that's at sine 90. This gives you an answer of 1. If it's easy, you can also mark one repetition of the sine wave onto your graph and translate it as needed. Now we can also take a look at how to transform the sine graph. And this is the general form that you can take. For example, if you put a number in front of the sine graph, it will stretch it vertically. If the number is in front of the x, it will stretch it horizontally. If there's a plus inside the bracket, it shifts it left or right. And if there's a plus outside the bracket, then it shifts it up or down. And the same rule also applies to cosine and tangent of x. If you want more practice on transformation of graph, check out my other video on my channel. Now let's take a look at the cosine graph. The cosine graph has the same shape as sine, but it starts at 1 instead of 0. The key points are again at 0, 90, 180, 270 and 360 degrees. And we can see that from the graph. We can see that cosine of 0 is 1, cosine of 90 is 0, cosine of 180 is -1, cosine of 270 is 0, and cosine of 360 is back to 1. Just like with sine, cosine has a period of 360 degrees, with the same amplitude and frequency rules as sine. The key idea is that cosine is just a shifted version of sine. They are phase shift by 90 degrees. So if you shift cosine by 90 degrees, you'll get the sine wave. Now let's go on to tangent. The tangent graph looks very different. The tangent graph repeats every 180 degrees rather than 360. And we can see that from the graph. Key points for the tangent graph are tan 0 equals 0, tan of 90 is undefined, as in when you approach 90 it shoots up towards infinity, and at 180 degrees it comes back to 0. The points where the tangent graph shoots up to infinity are what we call asymptotes, and we can mark them on the graph with dashed lines. These repeat every 180 degrees as well, as that's the period of a tangent graph. The key idea here is that tan of x is equal to sine of x divided by cosine of x. And so whenever cosine of x becomes 0, the tangent graph is undefined. Now let's move on to some key formulas that you need to know. Let's start off with the sine rule. The sine rule is as follows. A divided by sine of A is equal to B divided by sine of B is equal to C divided by sine of C, where the lowercase letters on top are the sides and the uppercase letters on the bottom are the angles. You can also flip it, so you could also use the formula as sine of A over A is equal to sine of B over B is equal to sine of C over C. And you can use whichever formula you want depending on what the question asks. You should use the sine rule when you know a pair of sides and either another angle or another side, depending on what the question asks you to find. We then move on to the cosine rule. The cosine rule works when you don't have an opposite pair. So the cosine rule formula is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of a. Again, the lowercase letters are the sides and the uppercase letter is the angle. You should use the cosine rule when you're either finding a missing side when you know two sides and the angle between them, or to find the angle when you know all three sides. For example, if I had a triangle like this and I knew this side and this side and this angle here, then we can use the cosine formula to work out the side labelled z. You can also rearrange the formula to get the angle if that's what the question asks for. This would give you cosine of a is equal to b squared plus c squared minus a squared divided by 2bc. Remember, the angle A is the one opposite the side A. The key idea of this is that it's Pythagoras' theorem extended a little bit. The final key formula to note is the area of a triangle formula. We're all used to using area of a triangle as a half base times height, but this special formula uses trigonometry when you know two sides and the included angle for any triangle. The area of any triangle is 1/2 AB sine of C, where in a triangle you'll have sides A, B, and the angle between them is what we'll call C. It works because the sine function gives the height of the triangle, regardless of whether it's right angled or not. So let's summarize. The sine, cosine and tangent graphs show the repeating nature of trigonometry. And you can see that by how the graphs repeat, either every 360 degrees or 180 degrees. The sine rule is used for opposite pairs. The cosine rule is for two sides and the included angle, or three sides. And the area formula is for two sides and the included angle. Master these and you can solve almost any trigonometry problem. If this helped you feel more confident about revising graphs and trigonometry, hit like, subscribe for more walkthroughs and drop a comment below if there's a topic you'd like for me to cover next. You've got this. See you in the next video.